You're listening to the Landing Page School podcast, where we give you bite-sized insights on landing page design, A/B testing, and conversion optimization. If you want to convert more website visitors into customers, this is where it all starts. And now, here's your host, Nicholas Scalise.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Landing Page School podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Scalise, and today we're talking all about color psychology and how it applies to landing page design and optimization. Now, color plays a crucial role for every marketing campaign, so it's not just about landing pages. Color is an important component in your ad copy, your ad images, everything you do. You need to be mindful of the different colors that you use. However, there's a lot of misinformation out there. For instance, if you were to Google color emotions or color psychology or color neuromarketing techniques, you will find a lot of infographics and a lot of charts out there that seem to have it figured out, or so they seem. For instance, I'm looking at one very popular infographic called the Color Emotion Guide, and I'll add a link to it in the show notes for this episode, which you can find at landingpageschool.com/002 for episode 2. But anyways, this color emotion guide, it shows yellow being the color of optimism and orange being the friendly color and red promoting excitement and boldness and purple being creative and blue building trust and green being a peaceful color. Now, while that may be true for certain industries or certain audiences, it's just too much of a general statement to say that those colors are always going to mean that for the majority of your audience. So what you need to do instead is you need to test different colors with your specific audience until you find what works. Now, there's nothing wrong with using these color emotion guides and these benchmarks as just that, as a benchmark, as a starting point, but do not rely on them too much because it is not a guaranteed science that this color means this. Now, there's a lot of reasons why that's the case. Help Scout had a really, really interesting article with a lot of research cited, and some of the research shows that the reason we can't say definitively that blue is always going to convey trust for people is that a lot of times we choose the colors and we give meaning to the colors based on our personal preferences, our past experiences, our upbringing, our cultural differences, and a lot more. If you want to read more about that, it's in the Help Scout article, which I will also put in the show notes at landingpageschool.com/002. But the main takeaway there is that the colors and the meanings behind colors are going to be different based on your specific background and the way you've experienced colors. But that's not to say that color is not important, because according to a Kissmetrics article, 92.6% of people say that the visual dimension is the number one influencing factor affecting their purchase decisions. Now, this means that people make decisions based on the way things look, or they make a first impression at least, and color is going to play a big role in that. So you want to make sure that you are paying attention to the colors you're using and that you're testing different colors, but just don't rely too much on any one source of information that's going to tell you use this color if you want to convey this emotion. So there's no real right answer here, but I do want to cover 3 general principles for you to keep in mind when you're designing your landing pages, when you're dealing with different colors. So let's jump right in. Number 1, keep it simple and stick to just 3 or 4 colors on your page for the most part. Now, this is not a hard and fast rule. I've built pages with 6 or 7 colors, so I'm not saying you have to do this all the time, but as a general principle, when you're designing your mock-up, when you're coming up with the idea, try to keep it as simple as possible when it comes to colors. 3 to 4 colors is more than enough. As Josh Byers from Copyblogger says, he recommends using basically 3 colors. The first being a background color, and this would give you the general tone for the entire page. Then you have a base color, which he says is used to break up the background. And it's typically like the middle child. It's not boring, but it's also not flashy. And then you have the accent color. And this is the color that's used the least, but he says that this is what typically should be your boldest color. So if we go with that model of using about 3 colors, your accent color would be used for your call to action. So that brings us to the second point that I want to cover. Make your call to action stand out. This is so important, and I see this overlooked so often. It's a simple thing to fix and a simple thing to test. Basically, on any landing page, you're going to have a call to action, whether it be a button or just something for the visitor to do. It's the action you want them to take. And you want this to stand out. You want it to stand out so much that if someone were to squint at the page, we call this the squint test, that they would see that call to action because it's standing out and it's contrasting against the rest of the page. So color is what can help you do this. So what I like to do is try to use the most contrasting color possible without making the page look terrible for my call to action. And most of the landing pages we build will have the call to action repeated a few times throughout the page. So make sure that that call to action passes the squint test and it stands out from the rest of the page. And then the last tip I want to share is that you need to pay attention to the qualitative feedback that you get from your visitors when you're going through user testing and you're setting up tools like Hotjar where you're recording session of visitors. You want to make sure that your page is clear and easy to understand and easy to view. I see people try to take it way too far with their landing page design, and they make pages that look good from an artistic standpoint, but they're not very usable and they're not very legible. It's hard to understand what's going on. It's hard to read the text. It's hard to see where one section starts and one section ends. There's too much coming at you, too many images, and it's just a mess. So make sure that you keep things simple. As Donald Miller from StoryBrand, a great site, by the way, a great blog, check out storybrand.com. It's one of my favorite blogs. As he likes to say, if you confuse, you lose. You don't want to confuse people on your landing pages. You want them to get the main point as quickly as possible. And color can help you do this. So what I'm talking about is not to use light gray text on a dark gray background, and not to try to not put a lot of light text on really dark backgrounds either, because that makes it harder to read. So you want to make sure that people can read and understand what you're saying. So that's it. Let me recap these 3 tips real quick on color theory and how it applies to landing page design. So number 1, keep your color scheme simple. Use just 3 to 4 colors. That should be a general principle to follow. Number 2, make your call to action buttons jump off the page. They should pass the squint test that we talked about earlier. And last but not least, number 3, focus on clarity and legibility when thinking through the color choices for your landing page. So there you have it. Just some quick advice for color theory and how you can apply it to your landing page design and optimization projects. I hope you're enjoying this podcast so far. I have a lot of other exciting episodes in store. We're going to be covering topics from copywriting to form design and everything in between. So if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button in the podcast player of your choice. And if you want to take it a step further, I would be so excited if you could just leave an honest rating and review on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you're listening to this podcast. So thank you again for listening. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next episode.
The Landing Page School Podcast is a production of Earn Worthy LLC.